They built a $16 million neighborhood on my land and told me I was the criminal. So I let them finish every single house, before I took it all. The memory of my grandfather, William Flint, is etched into my senses. It's the smell of pipe tobacco and WD-40, the feel of rough, leather-bound ledgers, and the quiet strength of a man who survived the Depression by trusting only what he could hold in his hands. He wasn't a man of many words, but his actions were his legacy. In 1971, he took $8,200 in cash, a fortune he'd saved one nickel at a time, and bought 47 acres of pristine Colorado forest. It was his sanctuary, his piece of the American dream, paid for in full. When he passed in 2019, he left it all to me. Tucked inside the original deed, written in his shaky, deliberate script, was a single note: "Don't let the bastards take what's yours." At the time, I didn't fully grasp its weight. I was Dakota Flint, a 47-year-old structural engineer, grappling with the fresh wreckage of a divorce, putting 2 kids through college, and drowning in 70-hour workweeks. The land, a 4-hour drive away, became a beautiful, abstract idea, a future project, a retirement plan. But I honored one responsibility without fail. Every April, I logged on and paid the property taxes. $6,400. Like clockwork. I had the email receipts and bank statements to prove it. It was my tether to my grandfather's world. For 3 years, life was a blur. I drove a 2008 Silverado that burned a quart of oil a month and focused on keeping the pieces of my life together. The land waited. In August of 2022, I finally made the trip. I had a small wooden box on the passenger seat containing my grandfather's ashes. It was time to bring him home. I turned off Highway 36 onto the old fire access road, my truck bumping over familiar ruts. But within a minute, my stomach plummeted. The road was gone. Replaced by smooth, fresh asphalt. I slowed to a crawl. The pine forest that should have enveloped me was gone. Vanished. In its place stood row upon row of identical, beige, Mediterranean-style houses with fake balconies and manicured lawns. Streetlights, mailboxes, basketball hoops in driveways. The air, once crisp with the scent of pine, was thick with the smell of fresh mulch and drying concrete. My hands gripped the wheel. This had to be a mistake. I checked my GPS. Once, twice, 4 times. The coordinates were correct. This was my land. I drove toward a grand, carved stone entrance that read, Ridgeline Heights, Bay Whitmore Luxury Community. A security guard stepped out of a gatehouse, holding up a hand. "Residents only," he said, his tone bored. My heart hammered against my ribs. "I own this property," I managed, holding up my phone with a photo of the deed. He glanced at it and smirked. "Sure, buddy. And I'm Elon Musk. Turn around." Before I could argue, a white Range Rover pulled up. The door opened, and a woman stepped out. She was in her mid-50s, sculpted by Botox into a mask of mild surprise, dressed in a white linen outfit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. She moved with an unnerving calm, the confidence of someone whose path had always been cleared by money and influence. "Problem, Ray?" she asked the guard, not even looking at me. "This gentleman claims he owns the development." Finally, her eyes slid toward me. I watched them travel from my worn work boots, over my Carhartt jacket, to my calloused hands. I saw her mentally file me away under help or nuisance. "How charming," she said, a condescending smile playing on her lips. "Sweetie, if you're looking for construction work, I'm afraid most crews have filled their labor positions. But I can take your number." The condescension was a physical blow. "I'm not looking for work. I'm Dakota Flint. My grandfather, William Flint, left me this land." Her smile didn't falter, it just sharpened. "Ah." She pulled out her phone, scrolling with manicured nails. "Our title company ran a forensic search. This land was abandoned for over 3 years. Under Colorado adverse possession statute, it's legally ours now. The statute means nothing if property taxes were paid, I interrupted, my voice tighter than I wanted. And I have every receipt. That's adorable. You know just enough to be dangerous. She produced a business card, holding it between 2 fingers as if it were contaminated. Brian Keir. Our attorney. He'll explain why your claim is, what's the legal term? Frivolous. I took the card. How many houses are sold? All 96. Pre-construction sales totaled 16 million. Families are moving in by Thanksgiving. She said it like a threat. This is a legitimate development, properly permitted. If you continue trespassing, I'll call Sheriff Mitchell personally. We're major contributors to his department's equipment fund. Then she did something that turned my blood to ice. She pulled out her phone and took a clear, deliberate picture of my license plate. Just in case you decide to come back and vandalize anything, she said, leaning closer. We have excellent security footage. And trust me, honey, people like you don't win against people like us. The smell of diesel from a nearby excavator mixed with the scent of her expensive perfume. I drove home, my hands shaking so badly I could barely keep the truck on the road. That night, I spread my grandfather's documents across my kitchen table. The 1971 deed, the annual tax receipts, the survey maps. Cassandra Whitmore had threatened me, photographed my truck, and implied I was a criminal. But in doing so, she had ignited a fire. I called a buddy, Marcus, a civil engineer in Cheyenne. I needed a lawyer, not the one who'd handled my divorce. I needed a predator. He gave me one name, Lydia Chen. Her consultation fee was $500. I paid it with a credit card, my savings already stretched thin. Lydia Chen's office smelled of old leather and lemon polish, the kind of quiet, expensive smell that commands respect. She was in her 60s, with a severe gray bun and reading glasses on a beaded chain. She listened to my entire story without a single interruption, her pen scratching across a legal pad in handwriting so perfect it looked typed. When I finished, she set down her pen. Show me your tax receipts. I slid the thick folder across the desk. Every email confirmation, every bank statement, every county record since 2019, plus copies of my grandfather's payments going back to 1971. She flipped through them, and I saw the corner of her mouth twitch. It was the ghost of a smile. Colorado adverse possession requires 18 years of open, continuous, and hostile possession, she stated flatly. And critically, the squatter has to pay property taxes for that entire time. If you've been paying, their claim is stillborn. We could get an injunction and stop construction tomorrow. Then let's do it, I said, a wave of relief washing over me. But here's what I'd do instead, she said, her voice dropping to a strategic, almost cold whisper. And you're going to think I've lost my mind. Let them finish. I stared at her, certain I had misheard. What? Think it through, Dakota. If you stop them now, Whitmore Development declares bankruptcy. Your land gets tied up in a 3-year litigation circus with 96 families who bought those homes in good faith. They'll sue everyone, the developer, the title company, and you. It becomes legal whack-a-mole. But if you let them finish, she leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. Then you file for a declaratory judgment. You don't just own the land. You own 96 completed houses. They have committed textbook fraud by selling property they don't own. They will be desperate to settle, because the alternative isn't just losing money, it's prison. It was brutal. It was brilliant. It was a gut-wrenching gamble that went against every instinct I had. How much? I asked, my throat dry. 40,000 in legal fees. Maybe 50. But when we win, and we will, the court awards damages for trespass, unjust enrichment, fraud, and attorney's fees. You'll own the houses outright. I had $12,000 in savings. My truck needed a new transmission. My daughter's tuition was due in January. I'll figure it out, I heard myself say. One last thing, Lydia's voice was deadly serious. Don't contact Cassandra. Don't post on Facebook. Don't tell anyone except your kids and maybe one trusted friend. In property litigation, surprise is worth more than gold. I hired her that day. The retainer agreement felt like I was signing away my financial security. September bled into October. I became a ghost at the edge of my own property, driving past twice a week, parking on the public road, recording everything with my phone. I watched framers swarm, heard the pop of nail guns, saw families, real people with kids and dreams, move into houses 43, 67, and 12. They planted trees, hung swings, and built lives on a foundation of sand. It made me feel sick. Cassandra spotted me during her third week. I saw her from 200 yards away, pointing at my truck, talking frantically on her phone. 20 minutes later, a sheriff's cruiser pulled up. Deputy Torres, a young guy who looked deeply uncomfortable, asked for my license. Mrs. Whitmore says you've been harassing her, he said. I'm documenting construction on property I own, I replied, giving him the parcel number. He shifted his weight. Look, if there's a property dispute, that's civil court. But if she calls again saying you're threatening her, I'll have to take action. Understand? The message was clear. She donated to the sheriff's fund. I didn't. The harassment escalated. I received a certified letter from Brian Keir, threatening a lawsuit for harassment. Enclosed was a photo of my truck, my license plate circled in red Sharpie. The word evidence was handwritten in the margin. Lydia laughed when she saw it. They're documenting their own fraud. This is beautiful. But then Cassandra went nuclear. In early January, just days before our court date, my daughter Emma called me, sobbing. Dad, did you get arrested? Someone posted on Facebook that you're stalking families and taking pictures of children. I found the post immediately. It was in the Boulder County Community Watch group, written by Cassandra herself. Alert! Local man Dakota Flint has been stalking our family-friendly community, making residents feel unsafe, claims to own our neighborhood. Sheriff is aware. Please report any sightings. Protect your families. The comments were a digital mob. People called me a predator, a creep. Someone posted a picture of my Silverado with the caption, "This is his truck." Stay safe, everyone. The post was shared hundreds of times. My world crumbled. My phone blew up with messages from old friends. My boss, a good man named Martin, called me into his office and put me on paid leave. The optics, Dakota, a school district client is nervous. The next morning, I found the word pervert spray-painted on my garage door. I filed a police report with the enthusiasm of a man ordering a coffin. That night, I slept with a baseball bat next to my bed. They're destroying me, I told Lydia, my voice hollow. This is what desperate people do, she said, her calmness a lifeline. Screenshot everything. This is evidence of malice. We're adding defamation to the lawsuit. The night before the trial, I got a text from an unknown number, drop the lawsuit or everyone finds out what you really are. I forwarded it to Lydia. Her response was immediate, perfect. Bring your phone to court tomorrow. We're going to bury them. Chapter 5, The Reckoning. The Boulder County Courthouse felt like a coliseum. I met Lydia in the hallway. She wore a navy suit that looked like armor. You ready? She asked. I wasn't. But I nodded. Cassandra and Preston Whitmore sat at the defendant's table with their small army of lawyers. Preston had the slick, gel-backed hair of a man who'd settled his way out of trouble before. Cassandra saw me and actually smiled, a cold, victorious curl of her lips. Judge Angela Ramirez entered. She had a no-nonsense expression and zero tolerance for games. Lydia's opening statement was a masterclass in legal demolition. "Your Honor, this case is about theft," she began, her voice echoing in the silent room. "Not the kind that happens in dark alleys, but the kind that happens in boardrooms with LLCs and forged documents." She walked the judge through the timeline, then held up a blown-up poster. It was the internal email Lydia had unearthed. From Preston Whitmore to Cassandra Whitmore. Subject: Old Mill Road Property Risk Assessment. The Flint parcel is not abandoned. The grandson has been paying property taxes continuously since 2019. Our adverse possession claim won't hold up in court. However, if we move fast, file the claim, get permits approved, and start selling lots before anyone notices, we can create enough chaos that Flint either settles cheap or gets buried in litigation costs. We've done this before. Risk level, medium. Reward level, $16 million gross. A hush fell over the courtroom. You could have heard a pin drop. They knew, Lydia said, her voice dropping to a deadly calm. They knew from day one. This was never a mistake. It was a business plan. The trial was a rout. Lydia called witness after witness. The title company representative, now cooperating to save their own skin, admitted they knew the claim was shaky but approved it after a $45,000 consulting fee from Preston. The code enforcement officer, Rick Polson, testified about the Whitmore's pattern of filing false complaints against neighbors. Deputy Torres confirmed the harassment. Preston Whitmore took the stand, and Lydia eviscerated him. Under her relentless questioning, he contradicted his own deposition, stammered, and unraveled. Cassandra invoked her Fifth Amendment right, refusing to testify. It was a silent admission of guilt. Judge Ramirez's ruling was swift and merciless. She awarded me full title to all 47 acres and the 96 houses. She awarded me $4.2 million in damages. She ordered the Whitmores to pay every cent of my $73,000 in legal fees. She dissolved Whitmore Development and referred the case for criminal prosecution. It was a total victory. Chapter 6, The Legacy. But with victory came a weightier decision. The law allowed me to evict 96 families and sell their homes for over $16 million. I could have become a different kind of rich man. Instead, I called a town hall meeting in the Ridgeline Heights clubhouse. Every family was there, their faces etched with a fear I recognized, the fear of losing everything. I stood before them, my heart pounding. "I know you're scared," I began, my voice steady. "You bought these homes in good faith. You did nothing wrong. And I am not here to punish you for someone else's crime." The silence was absolute. "Here is what I am proposing. I am transferring ownership of all 96 homes to the Ridgeline Heights Community Trust. Each of you will own the home you paid for, at the exact price you paid. If you have a mortgage, you will continue payments to the trust at 0% interest. If you have already paid $485,000, you owe nothing more. The trust will use the funds to maintain the roads, cover property taxes, and establish the William Flint Memorial Scholarship for a Colorado student studying engineering or environmental science." For a moment, there was nothing. Then, a single sob broke the silence. It was Sarah Chen, the woman who had called me weeks before, terrified for her family's future. Then another. And then, the room erupted. Not in chaos, but in a wave of pure, unadulterated relief and joy. People hugged, they cried, they cheered. The applause was thunderous, a physical force of gratitude that shook the very foundations of the building they had thought they'd lost. An elderly man, Mr. Rodriguez, walked up to me, tears in his eyes, and shook my hand. "You're a good man," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Your grandfather raised you right." I finally understood the true meaning of my grandfather's note. Don't let the bastards take what's yours. It wasn't just about the dirt and the trees. It was about your integrity. Your humanity. Your legacy. What was mine wasn't the money or the land. It was knowing that 96 families sleep safely in their beds tonight. It's the scholarship that will help a kid with big dreams and an empty wallet. It's justice, not the kind that only takes, but the kind that restores, that heals, that builds something better from the ashes of greed. So I'll ask you again, what would you do if someone stole your legacy? Drop your state below. Let's see where my land rights family is watching from. If you believe that the little guy can still win, that receipts and resilience can beat power and privilege, then hit that subscribe button. Because I've got more stories about beating the system. Next week, the city council denied my business permit. So I found the forgotten bylaw that made me untouchable. See you then. And remember, above all else, keep your receipts. All of them.